Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode we're going to be looking at Marshawn Lynch in terms of his analytics profile. This was kind of a semi-question on Twitter about Marshawn Lynch. You know, how productive is he going to be, and all this other kind of stuff. And I figured, you know what, I should do a video like this. One, because it gives you some historical context to what I talk about, you know, like there's some validation, I guess, to the work that I do when I do videos on older players. And on top of that, it'll give us a chance to talk about some age data, because I think aging in the NFL, I think, is a very interesting topic because it's not something that you can just look at from an aggregation standpoint. You do have to look at what these players did before. There's all these other variables that compound, you know, like health and all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different factors when it comes to aging in the NFL and actually staying impactful. And I think Marshawn Lynch is a very interesting sort of topic because, you know, he's 31 years old, and we'll get into some of the context of what that means in the grand scheme of things. But I do think it's kind of interesting just to talk about those other sort of factors, and of course to talk about the career of Marshawn Lynch in terms of his career in college, what he looked like coming out in terms of the combine and all the other kind of stuff, what his actual NFL career has been, and then of course getting into the context of what his season could be like, because we're about to hit, you know, we're basically days away for the start of the NFL season. So I figured I might as well just get this thrown out there, just to get my 2 cents out there on Marshawn Lynch at the very least. So again, terms and definitions, if you're not familiar with any of the work that I do, term-wise, just go to the description. I basically leave the terms that I say, market share, explosive lower body strength score, stuff like that will be in the description if you're not very sure about that kind of stuff. So let's start with Marshawn Lynch. So starting with Marshawn Lynch in terms of his college production, he had an 86.13 total offensive market share production score. Based on my data since the 1969 NFL draft class, he pretty much hit 5-time Pro Bowl threshold status. So the majority of 5-time Pro Bowl players hit at least 69 or higher, and he hit 86.13. Whereas a majority of 5-time All-Pro types, 5-time All-Pro types, just to put that in perspective, that's like Barry Sanders, Adrian Peterson, guys like that, Jim Brown, just to put that in perspective, Thurman Thomas, people like that. And 86 is not bad. I mean, there have been some All-Pro type, multiple All-Pro types, a couple, but not a ton, in that sort of 86.13 area. So it doesn't diminish what Marshawn Lynch has done at all. It's just that he was kind of in between a 5-time Pro Bowler and a multiple All-Pro type. In terms of 5-time All-Pro type, which is a lot for a running back to get 5 All-Pro considerations is ridiculous. So just to put that in perspective. And then when you get to his actual NFL athleticism, he had a 76.73 explosive lower body strength score, an 83.04 speed score, at a 39.62 flexibility score. Based on my data, he pretty much had All-Pro/Pro Bowl athleticism traits, particularly when it comes to his speed score. When it comes to All-Pro and Pro Bowl type running backs, you only need to have one athleticism score that's 79 or higher in order to hit that All-Pro or Pro Bowl potential kind of barrier. And with Lynch, he had one. His speed score is very high, also had a very high explosion score. Backs that are kind of like this, Adrian Peterson, for example, these are power backs, which, power speed backs is the basic way to explain Marshawn Lynch's athleticism traits. And anybody that's seen Marshawn Lynch knows that he has lots of power and, of course, the speed to break away, especially when it comes to his NFL career. So nothing really red flag-wise in terms of his athleticism data at all since 1999, at least when it comes to athleticism data. And then you get to his actual NFL career. Now, the only thing that really worries me about his NFL career is the 2015 season. That was kind of an injury-laden season at the age of 29 years old, which is somewhat scary, but it depends on how you look at it. He basically had sort of an injury-laden year. He's had other seasons where he was kind of injury-ish, in terms of, in between kind of okays, like Buffalo, for example. And in between Buffalo and Seattle, he was kind of in between a bit. But for the most part, he's had 6 seasons where he finished in the 90 plus percentile in terms of his market share percentile, which is fantastic. I mean, that's basically he's been a top 5 or higher back, basically top 10 to top 5 back since he's been in the NFL 6 times. So that's a very impressive feat for any running back to hit. So that's kind of the context we're working with. Very high quality NFL running back, obviously, but what is he like at 31 years old? Because he took the entire 26 season off at age 30, and now he's back. So let's get into some age data. So looking at the age data now. This right here is the number of above average running back performances per age since 1969. That's right, kids, 1969. As you can clearly see when it comes to above average market share seasons or performances for a running back, you start to see a decline at age 24. Again, this is why we say running backs have short, lifespans. And then it just sort of gradually declines, and then you start to see big drop-offs from age basically after that point. Really, you see considerable drops from there, and then for the most part, when you look at Marshawn Lynch, there have been 89 above average performances for 31-year-old backs since 1969. So not a ton of those guys, but let's look at those guys. When you actually look at the backs who were 31 years old and had above average production years, guys like Tiki Barber, Ricky Waters, Curtis Martin, Walter Payton, this is the whole list. See, I'm not going to name off every single guy, but these are backs who have had similar careers to Marshawn Lynch. A lot of those guys have had sort of similar sort of career arcs to Lynch. Herschel Walker, guys like that. So I would say it's not out of the realm of possibility that he could come back at age 31 and put up a 90 plus percentile season, or an 80 plus percentile season. Because when you look at the backs, the majority of the backs that are this productive in this area are backs that are like Marshawn Lynch. They're backs that have put in multiple top 5, top 10 running back performances prior to hitting age 31. And I think that that's the biggest factor when it comes to the ability to put in the type of workload at that age is what you were able to put in prior. How talented of a running back are you is basically what I'm saying. And I think when it comes to Lynch, and you look at the running backs that are in this area, it's very foreseeable that he could have this type of impact at his age of 31 years old. That's if he stays healthy, which is a question that I really can't answer. I don't know what his health status is. I don't know if he fully recovered from whatever ailments he had in 2015 because his season was cut short. Usually when you start to see a running back who kind of slips up a bit in terms of their production, that can be a sign of an underlying issue that continues until they eventually retire from the NFL, which he did technically retire from the NFL and then came back. So this is this is just the context we're working with Marshawn Lynch. I think it's very possible that a back with his level of talent coming out of college, what he's proven in the NFL, and what other backs at age 31 have done, I think all this stuff in context makes it so that the possibility is there that Marshawn Lynch could have another 90 plus percentile season at age 31. But you also have to add in the caveat that he did technically retire because of injury stuff. So it's really about his body. How well is his body? Can he take a full season of NFL action? Of being hit, basically. And I think that's a question that only Marshawn Lynch can really answer. I hope so. definitely, because I think he's a fantastic back. But that is the real only sort of big question mark in the grand scheme of things. It is less likely for most backs at age 31, because if you just look again, if you look at the number of above average running back performances at age 31, not a ton to speak of, compared to other ages. Like the older you get, the less and less the frequency comes. So he's basically at that sort of breaking point in terms of the limit of most backs since 1969. So I think ultimately it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what Lynch does. I think it's very possible that he can put up a really good season, but I do think that there's a lot of odds that are against it, especially because of some of the other sort of issues. So again, my name is James Coburn. You can find my work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.